In this hat is every single perk with and without augments in Black Ops 6 Zombies. And so today, I'm gonna randomly draw perks out of the hat like that, and then rank them from S tier, that's the best, down to F tier, which is the worst. And the first one I have in my hand here is PhD Flopper with Augments. And just so you guys can distinguish between the two, PhD without Augments is just the plain perk icon, whereas with Augments has the augment symbol on the corner. So PhD's Augments are cracked. They're so good. They're some of my favorite in the game, specifically because Tribologist exists. Like, man, I would be so sad if that wasn't part of the movement kit in Black Ops 6 Zombies, especially because the overall movement in this game feels a little bit less crazy and chaotic compared to what we were able to get away with in Cold War. But Tribologist in the PhD Augments really kind of carves some space out for some fun movement tricks in the game. And if you combine that with something like Dr. Ram, where you can knock down zombies, you can do my Terminus High Round strat with it. You can also alternatively use PhD Slider instead and combine that with Tribologist. Like, they're just really fun to synergize with one another, and overall they make a big difference to your gameplay. Like, you get PhD and you just start zooming with Tribologist. So this right here is S tier. Next up, we've got Deadshot without augments. Back in the day, during, I don't know, Call of the Dead, for instance, Deadshot felt like a pretty useless perk. I really just never bought it, because why would you bother unless you're using, I don't know, a sniper rifle that has a scope on it, and then, yeah, okay, it's nice to be able to aim for the head, but it's not doing much else for me, right? If we fast forward to the modern version of Zombies now, yeah, it's better. It's gonna give us extra crit damage, but at base, without augments, remember, it's only giving us a 10% boost to that crit damage, which really isn't that much. And when you're buying some of your core perks like Jug and maybe Stam and Speed and stuff like that, and then you start thinking, okay, what should my 4th or 5th or 6th perk be? Deadshot is a sort of attractive choice with augments, but without augments, I don't know, man. That $5,000 could be spent better elsewhere, to be honest. So I'm gonna say that just standard Deadshot here is C tier. Next one is Stamina Up without augments. This is going to be controversial because I am a Stamina Up enjoyer. Like, don't get me wrong, I do really like this perk generally, and I do pick it up pretty frequently in all the games I play. But I'm picking it up because I'm impatient, not because it's actually contributing to my survivability most of the time. You see, in this game, Stamina Up's gonna give you about a 12% boost to your movement speed at base, again, without augments. And that's nice, like that's good, don't get me wrong, but for the majority of the games that I play, that movement speed doesn't change anything. Like, I'm not getting chased down by the zombies so aggressively fast in the early to mid rounds that I need the boost. And even then when I get to the high rounds, I'm not doing strats that require me to outrun super sprinters because I'm usually just sitting in a corner using a jet gun or something, right? So this is gonna be crazy, but I'm actually gonna put this down at D tier. Like, at least Deadshot gives me a damage boost. Stam just lets me run away from things I don't need to run away from because I have a jet gun. Like, meh. Next, we have, what does that even say? Vulturade, okay. And specifically Vulturade without augments here. You guys are gonna very quickly discover here that my hating knows no bounds, right? Like, you think that I'm negative about zombies, I'm even more negative about Vulturade because this thing without augments is useless in my opinion. Sure, it's gonna give you more loot drops from enemies. Okay, sure. So you can pick up 10 points. Who cares? By the time you're buying this perk, after you've already got Jug and Quick and stuff like that, you're spending a pretty good amount of money on it. So it's not that you're gaining 10 points per kill or whatever, it's that you're already in the hole and you have to claw your way back. And sure, with augments, things change, but without augments, before you've got this thing leveled up, I'm never buying it. I'm just never even thinking about it in the game. It's going in F tier. I'm sorry. Next, we have Elemental Pop with augments. That's over here. Now, I think it's pretty telling that I picked this up, right? And I'm like, I'm worried people watching the video aren't gonna remember what all the elemental augments are, so I had better refresh them. And I think that speaks to the fact that they're a little bit forgettable. The two best ones are probably Chillberry and Citrus Focus. Citrus Focus means that instead of proccing random ammo types, you're just gonna proc the ammo type that you've got on your weapons, so you can proc Napalm Burst over and over and over again. And Chillberry reduces those ammo mod cooldowns. So just at face value, that's pretty good, right? It is decent, don't get me wrong. But I think where Elemental Pop struggles is that those elemental cooldowns, at least right now, don't mean that you kind of unlock the potential to do any kind of crazy new builds or construct any kind of really synergetic loadouts. Like, it's just doing other stuff a little bit more often. And the ammo mods in this game are nowhere near as OP as they could be. Like, they're okay, but they're not crazy by any means. And most of the time, people are just buying ammo mods for the elemental damage that lets their bullets do, not for the extra effects that happen. So elemental doesn't even contribute to that. And sure, you could throw on Vulnerabine, another one of the elemental augments, and that's going to mean that zombies take more elemental weakness damage, but that's zombie elemental weakness damage, and it just doesn't feel that special. Like, I'm never rushing to buy elemental pop. When was the last time you bought elemental in your first 3 perks? Maybe even your first 4 or 5? Like, it's a late game, forget about it, think about it later kind of purchase. And for that reason, I'm actually going to put it down here at C tier. Even with augments, I might rather have just regular Deadshot. Next on the list is, what does that even say? Regular elemental. So you can imagine, right, with this, that if I don't like it with augments, I hate it without augments. So yes, it's gonna mean that every bullet you fire gives you a chance to randomly proc an ammo mod. But like I just said, ammo mods are kind of meh. And especially the effect of the ammo mod is meh. Like, I like the ammo mod for the elemental bullets, but not necessarily for the little explosion or the ice storm or whatever. So far, those aren't that crazy exciting. And on top of it being a little dull, sometimes having elementals are actually really negative, because if you accidentally get a brain rot zombie in your last couple of zombies, for example, that might end the round for you, and then you have to go through the entire next round just to try and save one at the end, and that's really frustrating. So elemental is something I avoid buying quite often, and I would do absolutely 100% if I didn't have augments for it, like I'm rating here. So it's going down in F tier. Now, before we go any further with the other tier list back there, I want to just quickly talk about a different kind of tier list for a moment. Because this time of the year, you might have a birthday coming up, Christmas might be coming up or whatever, and you might be about to receive a bunch of gifts, right? And I think we can all agree, as men, there are some stereotypical gifts that men often receive, and I'm sure women have this happen to them as well, which just always suck, right? Shampoo, never good. Deodorant, socks, sometimes it can get okay, right? It can be decent in this A tier, like hats and gloves and wallets and shoes maybe, that could be a pretty good gift, right? But still, a lot of this stuff, especially down the bottom, is just trash, right? And deodorant was one that was a real pain point for me. I, for years, hated the deodorants that I had. I didn't like roll-ons. They felt so weird and wet in your pits. And I also really don't like aerosol ones because I don't like the smell of them. I don't like the feel of it being in the air. And I also don't like the sort of stains that it'll leave on your pits as well. Like, it's just not for me. So one year I was talking to some of my family who work in the theater, and they obviously are doing a lot of movement on stage, and they recommended this, okay? So it's called Act, and there's a bunch of different scents. So you've got this one, which is cedar and eucalyptus. So it's quite a woody smell, which I just adore the smell of this one. It's so good. And like, I detest the smell of like synthetic deodorants that are just, ugh. But this just smells like natural and delicious. They've also got like this orangey one that's more citrusy. And as soon as I started using these, I completely fell in love with them. And I've been using them like without them being a sponsor or anything, just personally since then. They're very simple to use. You just squeeze a bit on your finger, just a tiny bit there, and then rub it onto your pit. It takes like 2 seconds. And then this might sound weird because my mic is attached here, but there's no white cast. Like, there's no weird white markings on my pit. It's just normal and it smells great. I've been complimented on this by people that have been near my pits multiple times. And I became such a big fan that I actually got in touch with the company and invested some money in the company because I was like, this stuff slaps. So this is my sponsor today. If you're sick of this stuff at Christmas time or any other time of year, to be completely honest, can't get the lid off, just consider Act deodorant. It's linked in the description down below. It's for theater performers, right? So the actual webpage itself doesn't look gamery or anything like that, but that's a good thing because gamers notoriously don't smell the best. But the stuff these guys make, I promise you, it's so good. It lasts forever. And yeah, this is my go-to pick. So I just wanted to kind of put you guys on some game real quick. Let's get back to the other whiteboard. Next up, Speed Cola with Augments. Speed Cola as a perk is an interesting one because I think it's something a lot of players gravitate to because it's just so classic, right? Jug, speed, quick revive, and then double tap. It's one of those core 4. So a lot of people really love Speed Cola, but the augments specifically are so underwhelming. For example, classic formula makes your reload speed even faster, and it's already faster because you've got the base perk. How much faster do you actually need it to be? Realistically, when have you finished a weapon reload with Speed Cola and gone, man, I wish that was 10% faster? Like, nah. it's just not needed. Similarly, the mystery box settling faster, boring. Fast pitcher, boring. Like, it doesn't even work on half the equipment. So overall, I hate the majority of the options, and I think the best ones probably are supercharged, so you can get your field upgrade faster, which is nice, but it doesn't shave off enough of the percentage for it to feel really essential in every game. It's like 15% or something, I think. And then for the minor augments, I guess quick swaps, you can swap weapons faster, but even that is like, who cares? So I'm gonna be honest, it's not quite F tier because of supercharged. Like, supercharged is nice, I suppose, but I think it's a pretty safe D tier pick. Next up is Melee Macchiato with Augments. This one kind of depends which map you're playing. If you're playing Citadel Daymore, it gets a lot more points than if you're playing, I don't know, Terminus, for example. If you are on Citadel, having Espresso and Stick and Move on can be really fun, because Espresso means that your swing speed is faster, which makes the swords so much more viable, and Stick and Move means that you can get in and out of the zombies faster as well, and the speed boost is really nice, even though it doesn't last that long. As an alternative, you've also got Vampiric Extraction to lifesteal when you're getting those melee kills, and that's also really nice on Citadel. So it's got some options, right? Like, it's actually got things to consider and go, oh, I'd prefer this over that. And that's the sign of some pretty decent augments. But with Triple Shot, for example, your punch can hit multiple zombies at once, but then that's confined to your punch. And who's punching the zombies, right? You're just pulling your knife out because you can Pack-a-Punch that. And another example, with Strength Training, your punch can one-hit zombies for longer. Who cares? You're using your knife, right? So for that reason, I think it's okay because of the Citadel benefits, but not S tier by any means. I'm gonna put this one in B. Next is regular Jug without augments. It's gonna be controversial. So what does this actually do, right? A lot of people think that this makes your health regen faster. No, it's only a health boost. That is all it does in this game. You go from 150 health to 250 health. And I think this is pretty boring, to be honest, because in the early game, is my cause of death going to be me getting loads and loads of hits instantaneously, like all within 1 second? No. It's going to be me slowly taking chip damage over time, and the base regen speed of my health being too long for me to recover fully in between all of those hits, and then I'm just going to get eventually taken down. And Jug helps with that a little bit, sure, but it's not the solution to it. Quick Revive is. And again, if we're considering this without augments here, it's kind of boring. Just getting a health boost, okay, I'd rather spend that money on more armor plates, to be completely honest. Like, at least with blue plates tier 2 armor, I'm gonna be taking basically half damage to my health bar when I have that armor, so even that's preferable to me to slightly boosting my base health, and I would still pick Quick Revive over it every time. So without augments, Jug, I'm sorry, bro, you're going in D tier, but we need to do a little bit of rearranging here. Because the way these tier lists work is the thing that is furthest to the left, this side, is like the highest within its tier. So the question is, would I put base Jug below or above Speed Cola's augments and Stamina Up base? And I think, to be honest, I would probably still pick it over regular Stam with no augments. And so I'm going to put it at the start of the tier there. It's still all right. It's still just nice to have some extra health. That's never going to be a bad thing. And it's definitely never going to be useless in the way that base Stam could kind of be useless to you. So yeah, it can rest there in D. We'll get back to the augments one in a moment once I draw it out of the hat. It is Quick Revive without augments. Okay, this is gonna be a good one. So I mentioned that Jug wasn't that amazing in this game because of the fact that you just take gradual damage over time and you don't regen fast enough. This is the solution to that. And thank God it exists, because 6 seconds of delay between you receiving a hit and you starting to regen your health is way too long. It's way too long. But this halves that time and it brings it down to 3 seconds, which is so much more bearable. And you get the benefit of reviving people faster, which is also really nice. So this is honestly usually the first perk I buy in every game. And so I'm gonna give it a very healthy A tier. Next up, PhD without augments. It's kind of a mixed bag, to be honest, because I'm never rushing to get PhD unless I'm using Mustang and Sally's, or Sally and Fourth as it's called in Black Ops 6. And that happens maybe 50% of the time, let's say. And so in those 50% of games, this is essential. Base version of it, completely essential. But in the other 50% of games, I kind of don't care about base PhD without augments. So it's giving you immunity to all self-inflicted damage and status effects. It's giving you the dive to prone explosion, and it gives you immunity to full damage when diving to prone specifically. It's no longer just just all fall damage that it protects you from. And that means that this does lose a couple of points. That weirdly is now part of the stamina up augments now. And I think many players never need the dive causing an explosion, but then a lot of other players do just have a lot of fun with that. So I don't want to rank it down or up just based on that alone. I think that's pretty neutral. I think PhD overall is a very solid perk to have. And because in those Sally and Fourth games, it is 100% essential, it's going in A tier. Next perk. Quick Revive with Augments. This one's kind of crazy because I actually think some of the Quick Revive Augments suck. Specifically, EMT, right? It's a major augment where reviving an ally allows them to keep all of their perks on their bleed out bar, which sounds good at first, but then you realize that a lot of the time when you're actually reviving someone, their revive meter hasn't ticked down past those perks on the bleed out bar yet. So the major augment is not saving them anything in the first place. It's only if they're really close to death and then you res them that you get the benefit, and they're still only keeping 3 perks out of the possible dozen that they might have, right? So Quick Revive suffers a little bit in that regard, but that suffering is completely wiped clean by the fact that Dying Wish exists. God bless Dying Wish. The best augment in the game? Maybe that would be going a bit too far, but it's certainly one of the best because we've got limited stealth revives in Black Ops 6 Zombies, and so to just get extra stealth revives for free is insane. That is crazy. And so despite the fact that I think that basically all its other augments are sort of B tier and below, this with augments is still absolutely S tier, categorically. And I do think it's just below PhD with augments, so I'm putting it in this orientation, and it's quite nice how we've kind of got this symmetry or this reflection happening here, where I'd pick Quick Revive over PhD if I didn't have augments, but I would probably flip that around if I was buying with augments, just because Tribologist is so nice, man. But I'd still prioritize buying both of them really fast, because they're both amazing still. Next perk is Speed Cola without augments. You may think there is only one place to put this, right? If Speed with augments is down in D tier and it's down in the trash part of D tier, this has to go in F. But I'm actually going to surprise you a little bit and say no. We specifically are just being a Speed Cola Augments hater by putting that down there. But the base perk itself is nice, right? It is nice going from no Speed Cola reloads to Speed Cola reloads. And crucially, it does also increase the speed at which you replate. And you do a lot of replating in this game. And so the base version of Speed is still a worthwhile purchase. It's not something that I could consider S tier. It's also not something that I think is A tier, but as a very middle of the road B tier pick, yeah, sure. Next, Vulture Aid with augments. Again, returning to the fact that we put Vulture Aid in F tier earlier on, you'd certainly hope that when we added augments into the mix, it would make this thing a little bit more viable and exciting, and it thankfully does really do that. Its best major creates gas clouds from zombies, which charge your field upgrade, which is really nice because field upgrades can be pretty slow to charge some of the time, and this is a nice counter to that. And Picky Eater is the GOAT. Picky Eater is such a good minor augment. The fact that it's a minor is crazy because it means that on death, zombies have a high chance of dropping your current equipment. So if you have a Casimir, for instance, even if you're on 0, but you've just got a Casimir there in the corner, ready to be picked up the next time you find one, this is going to start dropping Casimirs for you. And for my Citadel Day more high round strats, for instance, that's essential. And it's actually really fun. So thank goodness this has some viable stuff in its augment selection. However, it does have some that are really mid, like pick up loot from further away. Who cares? And also just in terms of the psychology of when you're buying Vulture Aid with augments, you're always buying it like 5th, 6th, maybe 7th. Like it's pretty late in your game. It's not a really high priority S tier perk, I would say. And so for that reason, I think I'm going to put it in B, but we're going to do a little switcheroo here. I'm going to move Melee Mac with augments to behind Speed Cola, and I'm going to put Speed Cola at the top of that tier, and then I'm going to put Vulture Aid with augments in the middle. I think that that's a little bit more fair. Like I would probably buy Speed Cola first. Next, we have Jug with augments. I hated on Jug earlier, and I specifically hated on Jug earlier because we didn't have any augments applied. But as soon as you get all those augments unlocked for Jug, oh, it becomes so good. Specifically, Reactive Armor is one of my favorite augments in the entire game. Like I know that I've got a couple of favorites. Tribologist is one of those as well. But this Reactive Armor augment is incredible. The fact that you can survive as much as you can if you just proc Reactive Armor on the zombies and stun the entire horde and then just run away It's nuts. And it's also nice to have the benefit of hardened plates or durable plates as well, depending on your playstyle. I do wish that hardened plates did a little more to prevent you from taking health damage from zombies, because it doesn't actually give you that big a boost, but still, any boost is essential in those really high rounds where you're taking a lot of health damage. And even without worrying about the minor augments, just the major augment of reactive alone means that this is a very solid S tier. But where does it sit in the S tier? I think, to be honest, I'm still gonna put it here, because I still think I'd want to have Quick Revive first as a base perk, right? Like, if we're comparing these both with all of their augments turned on, I think I would still buy Quick first. But then again, the augments specifically on Jug are more attractive to me. Like, I don't need Dying Wish at the very beginning of my game, so that's a tough one. That could go either way. Next is Melee Macchiato at base. This replaces your weapon gun butt with a deadly punch that sends enemies flying. Who cares? I'm sorry, but who cares? The punch is too slow. It doesn't even one-hit kill for that long. You have to modify it with augments, and this is without augments, right? So it's mid for power, it's mid for usability, and just overall, I don't care. I just do not care about having a forceful punch in that way. I'm much more interested in, I don't know, blowing up the zombies or something with anything else that I can get from all these other perks. Melee Macchiato's just trash. Its only redeeming factor is the fact that, yeah, you're gonna get more knife damage, I guess. That is the only thing that would make me consider moving it up the list, but honestly, I feel like I'm gonna keep it there as like a protest to Treyarch to say, guys, you gotta buff this thing, man. It's just, I don't know, it's uninteresting to me right now. Next up, Deadshot with augments. Nearly done. Whoops. This is a really tough one to rank for me because it's really situational. I think the most universally good augments for it are Dead Head, where you get 15% increased crit damage, and that's increased from the base crit value before the 10% increase that you get from normal Deadshot. So yeah, that's nice. A little bit more critting. Good. I'm glad that those things stack. But I also feel like I shouldn't need to have augments on the perk for the perk to just do what I feel like it should do at base. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm fixing a problem that shouldn't be there in the first place. And that's why Deadshot didn't really rank that high before. So that's a little frustrating. But then Dead Break is nice, where you do increased damage to armor pieces. But again, most of the time, if you've got a really crazy build going on, you're not really going to notice the fact that you're doing that extra damage to armor. Like, it's going to be a nice thing to have, but not an essential thing to have. So those are okay, right? But then you've got even more situational stuff, like if you're using a sniper, maybe using Dead again and getting ammo back in your magazine. Doing that with the hand cannon is pretty cool. Like, yeah, there are some cool things that you can do with this. And I think Deadshot is honestly one of the few perks in the game which makes me want to theorycraft about the way I build my overall loadout. Like, it makes me go, oh, what if I used it on the hand cannon and then I got crit kills with my incantations and got hand cannon ammo back? Like, it makes me want to theorycraft like that, which so few of the other perks actually do. Like, they don't inspire me in that way. And so the situationality of this isn't a complete L. It's actually weirdly a bonus to me because it's fun. So I'm gonna kind of be encouraging with Deadshot's augments here, and I'm gonna put it in A tier. It's not crazy as a general use thing, but in the situations where it really shines, it can be the linchpin for a really sick build. And that means that we're on our last one, Stamina Up with augments, which has one of my favorite augments in the game, Hot Foot. What Hot Foot does is it means that if you get equipment kills with incantations or with tomahawks or whatever, you get a speed boost. And the speed boost is just so fun. For the same reason that I love Tribologist, I love Stam with augments because of Hot Foot. But all its other augments, I think, suck. I'm gonna be completely honest, I'm gonna read through them now. Equipment while sprinting, L. Projectile damage reduced while attack sprinting, L. Walk faster while aiming, L. Free fall or become immune to full damage, that should be on PhD. It's good that it's there, to be honest, but still, it's in the wrong place. So overall, I just think they're a bit mid, right? And so for that reason, I'm not gonna put this in S tier as much as I really want to, but instead it's gonna tuck in just here in A tier. So this is my Black Ops 6 Zombies perk ranking tier list. And the only thing missing now, which are left to add, would be, ta-da, all of the ammo mods. And if you'd like to see me do that ranking, it's linked right here on the screen. And if you're not interested in that, then just leave me a nice comment or something. I don't know. I'd be curious to hear your takes, guys, so let me know in the comments. I'll see you down there.